But before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are hosting this meeting from the lands of the Gadigal people. I also acknowledge the ongoing custodians of the various lands on which you are calling in from today, and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people participating in this meeting and throughout our school community. So welcome everybody. So today is the opportunity to really cover the key areas of returning to school safely for students and staff on Monday, the 25th of October. So I think, as you know, we only have year 7 and year 8, so it's pretty straightforward in terms of the key dates, but we'll also be covering off areas around student wellbeing, the COVID safe practices at our school, vaccinations, where to find out more information, and the time for any questions and answers that you might have. So really, what do you need to know about the return to school? Well, I have to say it is a layered approach. As you would be aware, the dates have changed on quite a few occasions. So for us, it would have been in 2 weeks' time. It was brought forward by a week, and now it's on Monday. But I can tell you and be rest assured that our guidance is based around the information from New South Wales Health and as well as the Department of Education. So as you would be aware, you might already have children returning to school already, and that's kindergarten and year 1 and year 12, which was last week. But from the 25th of October, all students will be returning to school. So that is from preschool to year 12, all students returning from the 25th of October. And what's really important for us is about student wellbeing. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Doug Graham, our school counsellor, who's going to talk to you a little bit about some of the areas to support you on your return to school, and for you parents as well to help support your child. Over to you, Doug.
Thank you, Robin. Let's start off by taking some time to explore some of the considerations facing children and young people coming out of lockdown. The sudden and inconsistent changes we've experienced during the pandemic have led to many children and young people feeling uncertain. Many students may worry that things which used to feel safe and predictable, such as school, may no longer be something they can rely on. There may be a lack of confidence among young people in the adults in their lives, as they have seen adults struggle to agree about how to manage the crisis. Their sense that they can rely on adults to keep them safe may have been diminished. Due to this, they may be feeling uncertain about measures the school and the community are taking to keep them safe. The school counsellor counselling system across New South Wales sent out a survey to school counsellors to find out some of the fears about returning to school. And they include children and young people worrying about contracting the virus, passing it on, or even dying, worrying around loss and bereavement, health-based concern, changing friendship groups due to isolation, preference for the lower-paced lifestyle of lockdown, fear of being behind academically, decreased motivation and mood after a long period of reduced activity, the fear of being away from loved ones, and the fear and anxiety related to all the above factors. So as parents and carers, what is it that you can do to help? Make yourself available as much as possible. Try to make yourself available. Create a safe space for talking in different ways, such as going on a walk together, baking, having a chat in the car. There may be less pressure in these circumstances than when sitting face to face. Check in with them periodically. Don't assume that they're okay because they seem it. Ask them how things are going. Ask them questions like, what have you enjoyed about being back? Any worries or challenges? Now, this one's always a bit of a tricky one. Being an effective communication with your team, try to put on hold some of your own feelings, opinions, and views, and try to enter the world of your teenager and understand things from their point of view. Try to approach at the right time. When people are angry and defensive, that's not the right time to sit down and have a rational conversation about a subject. Pick a time when everyone is calm and approach this with minimal emotion as possible. Understand and validate. Start off a conversation by trying to understand and then validate how your teenager is feeling. Even if you don't agree, with how they are feeling. You don't have to have the same views and opinions. By making them feel like they've been heard and their feelings have been validated, they're going to start feeling like they're in a safe space to open up further. Ask open-ended questions. They show a genuine curiosity for your child and your willingness to try and understand their life and their experience. And the tricky one, avoid demanding tones. Try to avoid language that tells them how they should feel and tells them how you think they should behave. This is going to create defensiveness and attacking. And try, where possible, not to talk over each other. Acknowledge what has happened. We must acknowledge the scale of what we're going through, especially as new announcements and restrictions are made. But we need to find a balance between respecting the enormity of the situation, our sacrifices and our losses, without dwelling on the situation. Let's normalise their experience. It's not easy it's very normal to feel really anxious about change. Change makes most people feel a little bit strange and weird. Some people find this harder than others though. Remind them that they're not the only ones being impacted by COVID. Remind them it's worldwide and it's faced by everyone. Provide them with information. Early high school students are able to discuss COVID-19 in a more in-depth fashion and can be referred directly to appropriate sources of information. Provide them with honest, accurate information about the current status of their schooling. Having such knowledge can really help give them a sense of control over the situation. Be empathetic, yet pragmatic. Reassure them that you understand why they feel unsettled by the returning to on-site learning. Be empathic, but do not lose sight of the bigger picture. It's important to remind them that school is the best place for them to interact with others and develop a strong moral compass, form and sustain healthy relationships, and understand right from wrong. By showing confidence and adopting a pragmatic, everyone goes to school and it's safe to return approach, they'll follow your lead. Plan together what the return to school will look like. To ensure a smooth transition back to on-site learning, try setting a routine before the return or as soon as possible. Having an organised and predictable routine helps teams to feel safe and secure at home and provide stability during times of change. Involve them in the planning so they feel ownership. Staying up late and sleeping in is common for teens, and for some, this can be a difficult pattern to break. Set a daily schedule with wake-up times and bedtimes for each day and try to stick to them. Practice, practice, practice. Routines need time to become automatic. Research shows that it can actually take between 18 to 254 days to form new habits, so be patient. If a day does not go to plan, just smile, stay positive, and start again the next day. Encourage them to rebuild connections. While children and young people are feeling excited about reconnecting with their friends, there are others that are feeling apprehensive. If your child is feeling apprehensive about mixing with their peers again, remind them that they've had years of positive social interactions and that their social skills aren't lost overnight. They have the skills to reconnect. Remind them to be kind to themselves. Life has been different and it may take time to adjust. Help them to be realistic in their thinking about how long it might take. Remind them to give them the same supportive advice that they would give to a good friend. Help them to focus on the things that they can control. Encourage them to talk and seek support from others. Encourage them to be positive and focus on the present. Remind them to be kind to others. Remind them that not everyone has had the same lockdown experience. Remind your child to check in with their friends. And as I've got here, 3 little words that can make a difference to someone's life. Are you okay? And what I think is very important is that self-care for yourselves. How you feel matters. Practice compassionate self-talk. Make time for relaxation. Talk to a trusted friend. If we model self-compassion as parents and carers to young people, they are more likely to practice this themselves and also seek support when you need it. And one possible support, which I have referred to before, is Parent Line. It's a free telephone counselling and support service for parents and carers with children aged 0 to 18. And Headspace currently have a information session that is available online. I put the web address down here, and I believe we'll be providing information to the community with these links.
Absolutely, tomorrow we can.
Excellent.
Yep.
So this one is looking at strengthening your understanding of mental health and mental health difficulties, increase your awareness of the impacts of COVID-19 on wellbeing, strengthen your understanding and skills and how to have a conversation with your young person, and build an awareness of the local services and supports available. I've also put in here, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, some wellbeing apps that have been recommended by the Department of Education, including Smiling Minds, which is a meditation app. We have Insight Timer, which is also a meditation app, but this one is more tailored more towards people over the age of 12. Fit On, which has is a free workout app with a variety of fitness options. And then Niggle, which was designed by Kids Helpline, and it's to help children monitor their wellbeing through games, puzzles, and videos. I also have some further supports. So all the ones on this are telephone numbers that you can call if you feel you need support or you know that your child needs support, including the Coronavirus Mental Wellbeing Support Service, which is by Beyond Blue, Lifeline, Suicide Callback Service, Domestic Violence Line, Kids Helpline, and also translating and interpretive services, especially if you need some help around some of these challenging ideas. And for those who would like more web resources to find out more information about ways that you can help, I provided you some from Sydney Children's Hospital Network, Reach Out, Sane Australia, the BRAVE program, Way Ahead, and Head to Health. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Doug. I think it's really clear that there are a lot of resources that might be really useful for you, maybe not even right now, but also down the track as well, as we come back into the world that we used to know. And taking that point up, Doug, that it has been a temporary state, and those years of building those social skills are there for the longer time, and this has been the shorter time. So thank you so much. And once again, we'll send out those resources to you tomorrow. What we're going to move on to now is more the practical changes that we're going to make to ensure a safe return for students back at school. And so it's really important to consider what's going to remain the same and then what's going to be different. So I'm just going to run through with you a few points now in terms of what will remain the same at NSID. And number one is that even though this has changed a bit over the last, say, month or so in terms of different advice, but the Department of Education is very clear now. All students are to return to school on the 25th of October and attend school on site with one mode of learning delivered. So that is the expectation, that all students will return to school by the 25th of October with only one mode of learning. Teachers assigned for class as happened before. Full school uniform is required. Now, I know that some of you have been frantically going to our uniform shop, which is great. And if you do wish to order online, then you can always just order online and the uniform will be delivered to your child. Now, NSID requirements for learning, our students know all about those. That's for all learning sessions and all school activities. Our break times will remain the same, and our start and end times for Monday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday are also the same. Now, the next one's really important, and you can see New South Wales have done an incredible job in terms of getting vaccinated. And I can actually tell you, proudly so, that all of our teachers, all staff are now doubly vaccinated, and I have cited all of their vaccination certificates. And we do know that the vaccination is the best protection against severe illness and reducing the risk of spreading it to others. So as I say, with that slide, it's pretty much at Inner Sydney High School. Without any doubt, all of our staff are doubly vaccinated. And it also is important to remember, I know many students have also had their vaccinations, but it's not a requirement to return to school. So that's why it's really important that we have our systems in place to make sure that reduce the risk of spreading COVID-19 to others.
I think also, Robin, that we're really fortunate in the space that we've got. So things such as entering and leaving the school, our break times and homerooms are things that we are going to introduce. A little bit of a what's new.
That's right.
What we're planning is obviously to make sure we minimise risk as much as possible. We can never fully get rid of the risk. However, what we have got in place, we stand by. There's been a huge amount of planning that has taken place with executive and staff to ensure that your child is as safe as we possibly can make them. So that includes separate entries for students. Year 7 will be entering via the Chalmers Street entry, which you would say is our main entry off Chalmers Street towards the main office. And Year 8 will be entering through the lower ground via PA Park gates. And that is also a very popular way of coming to school. But what we're trying to do is ensure that our year groups are separated at all times for any need in terms of identifying any future risk. We also have our break times. They will be in separate areas for Year 7 and 8. And there is a wonderful fact sheet that we will be sending out with everything tomorrow for students. And you'll have a bit of a glimpse at that later on in the presentation. Now, we're also introducing, for a lot of you out there, you might have been very familiar with the idea of homerooms. Because we are so fortunate with the space that we've got, we're a space built for 7 to 12, yet we only have 7 and 8. We are very lucky that we can actually organise homerooms for every one of our students. So our students will take the majority of their learning sessions during the day in those homerooms, with the exception, of course, of specialist learning sessions, because it is business as usual, and we don't want our students missing out on those specialist subjects. But all the general subjects that they have the ability to learn, they will to participate in, they'll be doing so from the one room, and the teachers will be making their way around there. So trying again to minimise the movement. And I believe the department term, Robin, was mingling.
Exactly, reducing that mingling.
Exactly right. Now, technology. We really want to be agile in this space. So right now we have ready to go every child's device that was still remained here at school. Obviously, for a lot of you who took us up on the offer and took your device home with a charger, you already have it issued. What's really important is moving forward, we will be issuing every student with their device, and their device will be coming home with a charger to be charged at home. And there's a few reasons for this, but the main one is to ensure that we are as agile as possible to make sure that if there are any changes whatsoever, and the department's made it quite clear that we need to be as responsive as possible to change, we are able to do so and pivot very effectively. So come Monday, students that have their devices at home, if you can please bring your device fully charged, that would be fantastic, because it will be business as usual. We will be using those devices. For students that have opted to use an alternative device at home, please keep that device at home, because your school issued device is ready to go in your homeroom as we speak. I just want to give a big shout out to Duncan Wood, who has done an excellent job of ensuring that the technology is ready to go. So your child will be coming home Monday afternoon with a charger as well as their device. It is also really important to understand this school issued device is pivotal to our teaching and learning cycle at Inner Sydney High School. So please ensure that it is charged every evening and it is in the bag like you would be prepared for learning, with pens, pencils, all of that. The device must be accompanied, because that is a really big point to make in terms of making sure there is continuity in learning. Robin,
Okay, now
masks?
mask wearing. Look, it's one of those things where it is a necessary evil. We're getting used to it, aren't we, Chris?
We are,
We're
yes.
very used to wearing our masks during our school day, as you would have seen through our presentations. Now, it is a bit confusing for families when they see some of the information coming out from the Department of Health that will say in offices you don't have to wear masks anymore if we're 80% vaccinated. However, in terms of schools, masks do need to be worn by staff and students at all times whilst on site. And as well as that, they also need to be worn for our Year 7 students and above on public transport. And our best laid plans, we did get some fantastic masks ready to go, but that was for the other date. So unfortunately, they will be coming, but not necessarily for Monday. So I really do urge all of you to ensure that you do have a mask that you bring with you and then you wear first day back on Monday, but also remembering we have some spares as well. So that's also really important for you to remember. You might be asking, how do you eat with a mask? Well, the answer is it's okay, you don't have to. So when it comes to drinking or eating or engaging in vigorous exercise, that's where you don't have to wear your mask. And, you know, we're going to ask you just to do the right thing, because all of us together, we want to keep safe. That's for staff and for students. So we don't need people to think, oh, okay, I'll take it off for half an hour while I eat. It's really important that we practice sensible actions. And I think that's going to be a feature of our students at Inner Sydney High School. It is for the good of our school, for our families, for our friends, and for the wider community. So as much as possible, we need to make sure that we follow these guidelines. Chris, anything else to add there?
Just our collective responsibility,
Absolutely.
Robin. I think you really made that point clear, and we know and have faith we have such an incredible community, a body of students that are absolutely wonderful. We can't wait to see you on site. Let's do it safely. So thank you very much, everyone, for your efforts in that part. Also, in terms of safe return to school, just a couple of really interesting things that students can do. Very simple. Making sure that you wash your hands regularly. We are very fortunate with our facilities here, so there is always the ability to wash your hands with soap. There is also hand sanitizer and hygiene packs in every classroom too. And while your food always looks delicious when you come in, as well as your drinks, please keep it to yourself. It's important about the wearing of the mask. Our hand sanitizer, like I mentioned, is part of the hygiene packs. Every teacher will have a hygiene pack given to them, as well as every homeroom. Also interesting to note, Robin, that with the homerooms, we have brought all those levels right down. So really the homerooms are from level 3 and below, which means that the students won't need to access the top half of the building, because that is an interesting feature, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in terms of movement around the school for those specialist subjects and breaks. What also is really important is that physical distancing. We talk about that 1.5 metres. That is from New South Wales Health in terms of a guide to protect ourselves. So where we can and where it is possible, we are very lucky in our space that we have, making sure that you are physically distant. We have set up our homerooms so they are also physically distant for all students. And the last thing is, you know your year group, so stay within your year group. Obviously, there will be movement around the school still with specialist subjects and break times, but please, where you can, it is so important that we maintain that until the advice changes. And I'm sure it will at some stage. This isn't permanent. This is a temporary state, but it is so important, giving us the opportunity to all return back on site.
And that's a really good point, Chris. What we need to always stress, we are working with the information that we have at this point in time. So what we also need to remember, we are returning as a level 3+. That's not to say that that could change. We might go in between the different levels. So because of that, we need to make sure that we practice, these really, really important aspects of safe practices at school, and to maintain that for as long as possible, actually. We're hopefully moving out of level 3+.
I was about to say, we want to make sure that we're moving in one direction, which is down the scale as opposed to up the scale. So every person has a role to play there. And on that, I'm sure everyone knows how to fit a mask correctly. It is really important that you make sure that there are no gaps. We will be going through with students this on Monday as part of our orientation. But to be honest, we're going to spend the majority of the time about wellbeing, because that is what's most important.
Absolutely.
So ventilation, there's been some really fantastic questions about ventilation. Again, I cannot tell you how much of a privileged space we are in terms of our ventilation system. Our building management system is a system that controls so many aspects of the building, and one of the main things is about air quality, and it also measures CO2. What we have done recently as part of the department has obviously audited all the ventilation for all schools across the state. And for ours, they've put a plan specifically in place. And that plan is that we will maximise air quality in terms of within our learning spaces. Our air conditioning and fresh air quality pushed into every classroom will be operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It will be set under a COVID-19 mode, and it maximises the condition of the oxygen and availability of outside air supply within the school. And this increased air circulation throughout the building is also ensured with the CO2 levels being monitored through the BMS system. And we do get that monitored by the incredible team that leads the building management system here on site at school. So rest assured, we are in a fantastic position in terms of ventilation at this school.
Yes, we're very lucky. So the next slide, I think, is actually really relevant and important for everybody, and that's about our school activities. So we mentioned before about what is the same and what's different. So this is pretty much about what is actually going to be a little bit different when you return to school on Monday. So a lot of the school-based activities will remain on hold until New South Wales Health advises otherwise. So sadly, we were lucky to get a few assemblies in this year and presentations, but unfortunately, they are now on hold, and where possible, we will be conducting those assemblies and presentation days online. But once again, if the advice changes, we'll let you know via email as soon as possible. A really major change is one that's only come through in the last week, and that's about sport. Now, students are not allowed to participate in inter-school sports, and as you would be aware, we have grade sport here at school. So it has been a decision made not by the school, but much bigger than that, that currently sport is on hold, and that means that students will finish school at 12:30 p.m. Chris, have you got any suggestions for perhaps that afternoon, what that might look like?
Well, look, sport is a mandatory part of 7 to 10 for students. And at the end of the day, it's a great opportunity to have some self-directed physical activity that can take place. Now, with those restrictions easing, gyms opening up, pools opening up, all of those things, it doesn't mean that students can't participate in physical activity. It just means that what they wanted to do was, again, look at minimising any potential risk in terms of having whole school sport activities run on site. So what they've suggested is, and we are very fortunate because we are a high school with really responsible students, is that you can go and participate in your own self-directed physical activity during that time. I know that that is quite a significant change for families, but again, you do need to trust that we are doing our absolute best in terms of ensuring the safety of your child, which is our main priority in ensuring that they come back to school. So it is very important to adhere to that.
On that note, though, it doesn't mean that students don't wear their sports uniform on a Tuesday. We're going to maintain that uniform because it is such a great uniform, and often parents build the sports uniform into their routine for the week. So still students' sports uniform on a Tuesday. Now, our I Day will combine with our recognition assembly, and that will be held online. We did have a recognition excursion scheduled for the end of the year. You might remember our students went to Luna Park last year. Already we're trying to come up with some ideas where an alternative plan will be in place for that. Sadly, once again, our extracurricular activities can't continue at this point in time, and that's the same for the ensembles. The ICAS exams will be conducted on the 2nd and 9th of November, and our Game Changer activity will be conducted on the 11th of November. So once again, all this information will be available to you in a recorded session, and more information to follow.
And I think the important thing is we have also as a school looked at the fees that have been collected on behalf of this. And as part of a fact sheet that will be coming out, you'll get a bit of an idea as to what's going to happen with those fees. So rest assured that we have thought through every single element possible due to the impact of COVID. And we are very confident in the fact that we have managed to ensure that we have addressed all of those concerns. So a couple of other things about shared school resources, and this is something that's quite important. So obviously with our vertical high school, we are a bit of a different setting to other schools. We will be using, for the majority of the time, students will be in homerooms. However, when they do need to move throughout the school, they will be using a set of stairs dedicated to a particular year group. How lucky are we that we have 2 year groups and 2 main sets of stairs? We've also brought a lot of our learning sessions down the building to ensure that that is easy, because what we have had to do as the advice from the department is close our lifts temporarily. So students will be accessing from level 3 and below their homerooms. There will be specialist subjects in the basement and level 5 when we talk about some of the TAS and PDHPE subjects. But the majority of movement will be limited because they'll be in that homeroom. And that means that we've had to temporarily close those lifts because unfortunately we cannot ensure social distancing in a small confined space like that. Our break times, like we spoke about, they will be separate in terms of year groups. Fantastic facilities for year groups to use. They will also be using those shared spaces out in PA Park as well. Our cafe too is an important thing to note. We are requesting, as part of the fact sheet, we are requesting that families make those orders online. There are separate windows for pickup for year 7 and year 8. Again, 2 windows, 2 year groups. Yep. How fortunate are we? But if you can please make sure that you order online, it will make it as easy as possible. And again, try and minimise that risk for your child. Our library will have break 1 for year 7 and break 2 for year 8 every day that has break 1 and break 2. So there will be equal opportunity there in terms of the library. Obviously our toilets, very lucky, individual cubicles, and our bike storage. We do have a secondary bike storage that is normally for teachers and staff, but we have now allocated that for all the bike and other multimodal pieces of equipment for the year 7s, and a separate one for the year 8. So again, you can see how we've really gone to a lot of effort here to ensure that we do this notion of cohorting that the department talks about, exactly, where they say separate cohorts.
Now, the next slide is one of those ones that we hopefully don't want to have to cover, but we do. And that is the case of what happens if we have a COVID-19 case on site. And I have to say, the systems are very much in place from the Department of Education. You will be notified as soon as possible. and with further instructions about what actions need to be taken. So don't worry, you will know straight away if there is a confirmed case. And in some instances, it may require that the school is actually non-operational. But many schools have actually gone through this process already. We're fortunate that we haven't, but I can tell you that we'll be very much ready if that is the situation, if it actually occurs. So very strict guidelines. It comes from Department of Health to my executive director, to my director, and then to school. And of course, there's thorough cleaning of the school site to ensure the environment is clean and safe prior to the school returning to on-site learning. So it's going to be really hard to predict. There's no crystal ball about what that will look like and whether it will take place at Inner Sydney High School. But the more it happens, and I have to say it has happened a lot this year with many schools, the Department of Education is very well drilled in this space.
So further information, Robin?
Well, look, it's really important that, as we know, that all students are expected to return on the 25th of October. And we're so excited to know that we're so keen to have all of our students back on board. But as I mentioned before, parents and students will be notified straight away if there is a confirmed case. And I just think I do encourage you to check your emails. As you know, we have been sending emails out 3 times a week to provide you with updates, but it's really important that you continue to check those emails, and there'll be a link for you as well for further information.
And I think at the end of the day, we've created a really easy to read fact sheet with a lot of the elements that we've covered now. It's going to be given to staff, to students, and also sent home for families, just so you understand the different meticulous nature that we've gone in terms of planning this return to school for students, and making sure that it is face-to-face and we can maintain it. So that will be sent out. Keep an eye out for that. And now what we'll do is hand back over to Nigel, who I know will be inviting any further questions. We already have a couple in their panel. So thank you very much, Nigel.
Yeah, so just a reminder for everyone, the Q&A box is down below. We've had a few questions. I've tried to answer a few of the more straightforward ones by typing it. So if there was anything that did arise from the presentation, please make sure you put it in the Q&A. There is one there that I'll read out, but I'm sure, Chris, you can have a look at it as they come in. I am still not comfortable sending my child to school. Will online learning still be available?
Well, as I mentioned, there is only one mode of delivery. The Department of Education have actually made it really clear that for all those important social connections and for the reasons why it is so important for students to return to face-to-face learning on site. I know it's difficult, I know it's challenging, but we are doing all that we can do to ensure a safe return for students and teachers. Keeping in mind, we actually have 2 year groups. There are many schools that have 7 to 12 schools, in some cases K to 12 schools. So we actually have the capacity to do everything possible to ensure a safe return for students. Chris?
I think at the end of the day too, Robin, it's really about individual circumstance. So obviously it's very difficult to know an individual circumstance. We invite any families, and we have had families reach out about these concerns. Please allow us to personalise our advice to you. So please reach out to the school if you feel that you have any further clarifying questions that you need to ask.
Chris, should we grab the next one about
Thank you, Samantha.
windows?
Yeah, external windows opened in all classrooms. We are completely sealed. We have had an audit of all windows. All our windows met the requirements that are required. Our ventilation is actually through our BMS, through our air conditioning system, and it pumps a huge amount of oxygen into a building that has the capacity for 1,200 people plus staff. So I think it's really important to note that if this is going to be running 24 hours, in lieu of the external windows being opened, obviously there are some spaces where you do have sliding doors and open balconies, but in lieu of that, a lot of the oxygen that will be pumped through here and monitored, which is a very, rarity in schools, that will be monitored, will be absolutely as fresh as possible.
And a great question from Mary Louise. No, we don't require a record of COVID vaccinations for your child because children aren't required to get the vaccinations. But can I say, judging by the stats that we're seeing, I'm sort of feeling really positive about the number of our students that will be double vaccinated, really, in the next few weeks, which is fantastic. So well done, everybody.
If there's any further questions, please feel free to ask. Obviously, again, we always encourage people to reach out to the school too, obviously via email or a phone call. We do have people on site. It's been wonderful to see so many staff on site this week too, Robin, hasn't it?
It has
Preparing
been.
it for the return for students. So please make sure that if you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask them. I think that what you will find, but is our communication is very comprehensive. It has all the need to know points in a very simple format. This will be available to you, obviously, as a link as well as the presentation. We also have coming out is the fact sheet just of what you need to know. And our students will be well drilled day one on the expectations returning back to site.
And also, we want to make day one a memorable day. It's not just something which is returning to school after a holiday. I mean, after what everyone has gone through, it is a really significant day. And what we want to do is welcome our students back with a great sense of hope and a sense of achievement about what they've actually accomplished during the period of this lockdown time. And I think it's also a call out to all of you. As parents, as a community, we have an incredible community here. We're fortunate with our parents, our students, our teachers, our staff that have all worked together for the best possible outcomes. And I genuinely mean that. And I think it's really evident in what we've seen online, the creativity, the positivity. At times, yes, it's been hard, but I think everyone has certainly risen to the challenge. So Monday will be a special day. We do ask for our students to really come no earlier than 8:30. We have a few surprises for you, but it's going to be really important, and touching on what Doug mentioned before, for our students to have the time to unpack, to share, to enjoy being together again. But of course, we have to understand it's about safety. And as Chris mentioned earlier, that collective responsibility is so important that we can work together so Inner Sydney High School can stay open. And that's what we want to see.
Absolutely, Robin. Yeah. I think that might be wrapping us up. I think we must have hit the nail on the head there with the questions. Thank you for an incredible amount of participants here. Obviously, you know, we really look forward to seeing you all back on site. You know, our purpose, our students.
Absolutely. And please don't forget, look out for that email tomorrow. There'll be lots of information. You'll have the chance to go through that fact sheet, have a look at some of the resources from Doug. And as I said, that could be something for now, but also in the future. So thank you so much for your time this afternoon. We are so excited to get back our students back on board, our staff on board. I can see in our participants tonight, we have teachers who have also joined us online today. So lovely to see you all, and can't wait to see you on Monday. Take care, everybody.
And thank you very much for all the people posting their appreciation too.
Thank you.